Hello and welcome to this edition of You and the Law. On You and the Law, I basically add law to the news, but from time to time I move away from the news and then discuss issues of everyday living, and this is one of such instances. In this edition of You and the Law, I am discussing the rights to female inheritance in Nigeria. My name is Ekeminidim. I'm a legal practitioner. I'm always glad to know that you're there watching this channel with me. In some communities in Nigeria, female children are not allowed to inherit the property, the estate of their deceased parents. In some communities still, wives are not allowed to inherit the property of their late husbands, especially if such women only had female children for their husbands, never had any male child. And so it has been like that in these communities over time and so on. And the justification is always that this is the custom, this is the tradition of our people. This has been the tradition of our forefathers. And so we must keep the tradition over and over again for years to come on end and so on. But the question here is, what does the law say about such customs? Does the law allow the deprivation of the female child of the property of his parents? Or does the law allow the deprivation of the wife of a deceased man, from inheriting the property of her deceased husband and using same for the welfare of the children? That's the essence of this edition of You and the Law. Now, does the law allow this? The law does not allow it. How these customs, came to be is totally strange to the law. The law does not allow the deprivation of a female child of the property of his parents. Now, let's look at the law one by one. We look at the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. By Section 43 of that document, the right to acquire and own property anywhere in Nigeria is a constitutional right available to every citizen of Nigeria. Now, you can own property by outright purchase of the property, and you can also own property by inheriting the property from your parents. And so, Section 43 of the Constitution, which gives the right to acquire and own property anywhere in Nigeria, applies also to female children. It applies also to wives of persons who have passed on, irrespective of the community in Nigeria. So long as that community is part and parcel of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, this section of the Constitution, Section 43, which is a fundamental right, applies to every female child. Secondly, there is absolutely no law which prohibits inheritance, female inheritance in Nigeria. There is no law of any state of the Federation that directly prohibits female inheritance in Nigeria. Like I said earlier, what you mostly have is customs and tradition prohibiting the female children from inheriting property from their late from their late parents, or that stops wives from inheriting property from their late husbands. Now, when a custom is tested in court, the custom which is repugnant to natural justice, equity, and good conscience will always be set aside by the courts. In other words, a custom which is unfair, a custom which deprives me of my property and hands it over to another person, would always be seen as being unfair by the court of law, and such custom will certainly be set aside when tested in a court of law. Now, what has the law said? Has the custom that prohibits the female children from inheriting property been tested in court? Yes. It has been tested over and over in courts of law across the Federation of Nigeria. Now, the Supreme Court of Nigeria recently nullified an Igbo custom which prohibited female inheritance. And that case is the case of Anekwe versus Mrs. Maria Nweke. Now, let me explain a bit about that case. I'm only mentioning the Igbo custom because that's the point that was addressed in that very case. There are other customs in Nigeria, that also prohibit not only the Igbo custom. But the case of Anekwe versus Mrs. Mara Nweke is very significant in this discourse. In that case, Mara Nweke had 5 children with her late husband, all of them female. None, they never had a male child. Eventually, her husband died. And when the husband died, the in-laws stopped her from inheriting her late husband's estates and said clearly that it is against the custom of their people for a woman who had all female children to come and inherit the estate of the husband. Mrs. Anekwe happens to be, appears to have been very enlightened to the extent of testing that custom in court. She went to the court, the High Court in Oka in Anambra State, and then judgment was given in her favor. The in-laws appealed against the judgment to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal still held in her favor. The in-laws appealed further to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court also held that a custom which deprives the female children from inheriting the property of their parents, or deprives a wife from inheriting the property of her deceased husband, is certainly a custom which is repugnant to natural justice, equity, and good conscience. The Supreme Court even said that that custom is barbaric and unacceptable in a civilized society, unacceptable in the 21st century. And with that pronouncement of the highest court in the land, don't forget that the Supreme Court is the highest court in Nigeria. With that pronouncement of the Supreme Court, coupled with the provision of the Constitution on the right to property, it is clear that in the entire Federation of Nigeria, any custom which deprives the female child from the right of inheritance of her deceased parents' estate is a custom that has already been set aside, is a custom that has been abolished by the Supreme Court by its very clear pronouncement in the case I just referred to. So it's clear that male and female children were given to man by God, by the Creator. And therefore, what is good for the male child is equally good for the female child, and that's the position of the law. I do hope you have learned 1 or 2 things from this very episode of You and the Law, so as to begin to treat the female child the way they should be treated, fairly, equitably, and in tandem with the provisions of justice and the law. Thank you for watching this very episode of You and the Law. Do remember to continue watching the show, and always remember to subscribe also, so that from time to time you can receive notifications on new videos that have been loaded on the channel. Thank you very much, and do remain blessed.